More of Week 12 is upon us as it is past Turkey Day and we are into the holiday weekend. Zach Heilman here, along with my buddies at Hilo Sports Podcast for another edition of 4th and 4, part of your Belly Up Sports pregame lineup. I'm here. These guys are here. We're already full of, maybe still full of, said past Thanksgiving meals. I'm jazzed because I got a win somehow this week. Lame win, but, you know, I'll take it.
That makes one of us.
Yeah, well,
I lost everything this weekend.
I enjoyed the Colorcast of that game, although I the penalties didn't help for Cowboys Raiders, but you know.
There was more yellow on that field than in the big house for Michigan and Ohio State. My goodness.
Oh my God.
Not wrong.
Folks, welcome you on in. Obviously, we've had several contests already take place that we will touch on shortly, but we still have plenty of football action this week in the NFL. You know, it's pretty. Thanksgiving weekend generally is an amazing week of football, even outside the NFL. I mean, we've had some great college contests, even ones that weren't expected to go the way they did. I'll hold off as long as I can because Kelcey's get a double whammy this week on that front. So we'll give it a second.
Maybe 40 seconds.
Maybe 40 seconds.
Maybe 40 days.
Never 40 years. 40 lifetimes.
Bury it. Get the shovel already.
Pretend it never happened. That works too.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Bowl eligibility, so it didn't matter anyway.
Oh boy, 6-win bowl game from the SEC. I think it's the Camellia Bowl is where they end up going. Like
maybe
I don't even know where they go.
Although it's funny you say that, but as me as a Ball State fan, I go 6-win bowl game eligibility, baby. Here we come.
Well, that's the problem. The 6-win SEC team ends up playing like an 8-win MAC team, and they're going to get their stuff pushed in. It's like, well, that's not fair. Why you got to play an 8-win team with a 6-win? Anyways, it's a whole thing.
Strength of schedule, my friend. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah, I know. Number one strength of schedule gets you 6-6. That's what happens.
Let's get into the first quarter. We can keep harping as we move along. Kickoff, ladies and gentlemen, quarter number 1. Talking many of the big stories that are on your NFL docket. We're really just talking this week about the Thanksgiving slate. Since we've already had 3 games go on, why not just recap those contests? A few of them have some storylines. A few of them have playoff implications in mind in particular. So yeah, let's do this. I want to spend too much time on Bears Lions because it was just boring as hell, and most of that game surrounding the storylines was about the report of Matt Nagy being fired after the game, which hasn't happened yet, by the way. Probably won't because it sounds like they don't want to step in that mud. I wouldn't want to do it if a report came out. Why confirm that report? Just keep delaying it.
I mean, hey, you don't want to talk about, if the Lions had a culpable quarterback, if they could have, what they could have done to the Bears defense and how, you might have gotten your wish had they had a culpable quarterback of Matt Nagy being fired.
Or, the offensive line just learned hold inside, not outside. I mean, 13 holding calls out of that'll kind of push you back as well. I mean, it's kind of ironic. We look at Thanksgiving. You had a dud, you had a thriller, then you had a butt whooping. Like that's we kind of have like all 3 phases through the 3 games we had.
The cycles of any football weekend. There's always one.
Luckily, they gave you the thriller right around the dinner time as well too, so you could have the thriller before the tryptophan knocks you out for the late game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned on those holds with the Bears Lions. The Lions, to me, they should have actually won this contest if they just 2 drives in particular. They don't commit back-to-back holding calls on 2 separate drives and set up 1st and 32 or 2nd and 35 or whatever the hell you want it. This game probably flips, and we don't see like a clock run down with 8 minutes of drive time on 18 plays.
And then throw in the back-to-back timeouts by the defensive coordinator as well too. Like the Lions going to Lions. The Lions is the Lions. That's the best way to describe how that game went. Really, I mean, it was kind of ugly, but the Bears walk away. Nagy gets a W, and he survives another week. And Justin Fields doesn't have to go get assaulted anymore. He gets the week off.
If you guys just noticed, I wiped away a tear for all Bears fans there as they were all hoping Matt Nagy got fired. Unfortunately, our wishes could not come true. Even though I'm not a Bears fan, I just don't like Matt Nagy. I wish he got fired. I wish he'd get fired.
He's gonna get fired. I'm not gonna. Some vein of me knows it has to happen. You can't
You're trying to
do it
speak into
again.
existence at this point.
You can't do it again. I can't do that again.
Well, speaking of not doing it again, the Cowboys could not do it again. And, they lost the Raiders in overtime. And Zach, you were actually on the call for this one.
I was on the call. Heavily penalized contest, really. Just like we were talking, just tons of yellow trash on the field. It seemed like every possession. Micah Parsons obviously making the quote of the week so far, in my opinion, saying we're not out here to play tag. He getting one of the more controversial roughing the passer calls, which, understandable because if I'm assuming why they called it was his hand hit his head. And, to me, that's ticky-tacky depending on how the violent forces of said tap on head are. I get it. You're protecting the QB. But what if it's that you're trying to brace yourself?
Between that, the pass interferences, the holdings, the false starts, it was calling every little thing. Everyone asked for consistency. Well, you got consistency. You just kind of got the wrong consistency. You would prefer a few of those to slide here and there. And I'm not saying it changes the outcome of the game, but it elongates the heck out of the game. We're sitting there like, are we done yet? Like, it started wearing down just a little way after a while. What was really a thrilling game is just the yellow flags kind of took a little bit of the climax out of it.
Well, here's the player that I wanted to key in. It was an interesting conversation we had on Colorcast, just jumping on when you guys were calling the Bills Saints. Is Anthony Brown? He was the one that kind of stands out as the, oh my God, this guy is like blowing it for the Cowboys right now, because he was called, I believe, it was 4 or 5 PATIs, and the one being on the final drive for the Raiders that in OT that sealed the deal.
Yeah, look, this is like. Talk about the unluckiest situation. A guy who has been the best corner on this team all season long, who had not been penalized defensively all season long. And in the one game he's playing pretty well. He has 4 penalties and just so happens to give up the last one going in and getting the Raiders the win. But it's just, man, like the Cowboys can't get out of their own way. Their corners are so, it's like, look, Anthony Brown's had a fantastic season. The one game you think they're going to win, they feel pretty comfortable in this one. Oh, by the way, Anthony Brown's going to just leave it all on the bed. Just deuce all over the bed and then say forget about it. Trayvon Diggs, he's been fantastic coverage-wise, like in getting picks, but covering anybody and stopping them from going deep, he's been terrible. So it's like, can this defense do anything right at this point in time? I don't know what's happening.
We also saw how much Amari and CeeDee Lamb really mean to that offense. You take them away, no other receiver was really able to fully step up consistently, and Zeke being banged up, it was rough to say the least. Cedric Wilson, we were hoping to see a little bit of an explosion from, not a whole lot. Michael Gallup did come back and had a nice showing as well, but Michael Gallup's not a guy you want to be your number 1 receiver. He's that complimentary guy that's fantastic, and nobody stepping up to threaten the defense. I think that helped the Raiders tee off with Max Crosby, Yannick, and Doc Wade and squad. And Dak did fantastic for what he could, but you could see he thrives when he could just kind of layer those ones deep to those guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. When he doesn't have that little window of opportunity, I guess he struggles a little bit when he doesn't know he has leeway, if that makes sense. Like when the hole's only 5 feet big instead of 8 feet big, that's when he tries to press a little bit harder and tries to force it, tries to throw it too perfectly every time.
Yeah. And then the drops as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had wondered where in the first half, I was like, where in the heck is Michael Gallup? I was wondering that the entire cast. I'm like, this is supposed to be probably your highest profile receiving target besides maybe Dalton Schultz right now. Cedric Wilson has had his flashes. I'll admit that when I've watched the Cowboys. But Gallup's supposed to be that guy you're expecting to step up. And I was like, okay, now late third quarter into the fourth, we're finally getting this. I was expecting this all game that you're going to see this. It's not like he's a slouch or anything, but if that connection's not as good as the other two, I understand. Got to be able to be in sync with your receivers. And it's probably a detriment when you have your top 2 guys out all of a sudden, or at the last minute with CeeDee Lamb's case where he couldn't clear that final protocol step. So now what? You're like, oh, throwing our hands up. Guess that's all we got to do. Just take what we got.
And I'll throw on top of that, too, it was a great job by the Raiders bouncing back from, 3 losses in a row, too. We talked about all the turmoil they have gone through all season. Kelcey and I have talked about it in every Raiders cast we've done, where it's like, oh, my goodness, when are the wheels going to fall off? We thought they finally fell off against the Bengals, and then on a short week, they were able to come in and really almost give away the lead and show a little bit of resiliency to bounce back as well, too. Losing Darren Waller early in the game, too, your number 1 target, and still able to make up for it, kind of like the opposite of the Cowboys, where their 2 top guys went down, nobody really filled that void. Darren Waller went down, Hunter Renfrow and Deshaun Jackson really stepped up and both left with 100-plus yards. So it's a great job by the Raiders, led by Derek Carr, too, to bounce back in that one. A game they desperately needed if they want to have a shot in a freezing cold, to get into the playoffs.
That's
yeah,
it. Yeah,
still is still far away chance for them. Really competitive division.
It's not over yet, though. I'm saying there's a chance, and with my Jim Carrey smile and voice, like it's not over yet.
that AFC is jam packed in the middle there, and I mean, there's very few teams that are actually outstanding in that little 5-5, 6-5 pack that's there, and one of them did end up that nightcap, the Bills beating the Saints handily, 31-6. DJ, you and I were on the call there, and this one just, I mean, what? Wow.
Anticlimactic. It's like the tryptophan kicked in for both teams as well, too. It's like, all right, the Bills are the Bills. They're doing good things. The Saints, you could tell, no Alvin Kamara, no Mark Ingram. Receivers are injured. Trevor Siemian's getting absolutely attacked. Taysom Hill no longer is being used as Taysom Hill. He's now just the backup quarterback. The defense looked good. They made the Bills uneasy at points, but there's only so much you could do. I mean, Josh Allen and them are going to get loose if you give them 17 possessions and a half. So it was honestly probably the most boring game of the day, arguably, but it was also just because the Saints were so beat up as well, too. So that one kind of left us wanting a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I mean, Zach, from your standpoint of looking at this one, did you see anything from the Saints that gave you promise to the future?
It's going to be a rough road for them. I know that they were kind of, once Jameis Winston went out against their first contest against the Bucs, they rallied and made the most of it and surprised us all with beating Tampa Bay. But we were expecting, I think, a rough road ahead with their setup, and I think this is a roster that really it's going to hang in, and, you can still have that mentality for trying to hit and keep a wild card position. But I'm having a good feeling that the Saints are going down the road towards what do we have for next year, and how can we lick our wounds and kind of reset? Because I mean, right now it's just a battered roster at this point. Kamara obviously, he's probably closer to back than he has in recent weeks coming up. He'll have an extended time off now. But Mark Ingram being out, that didn't help any favors. Key defensive players like Davenport being out, that doesn't help you in any sense. And Siemian obviously is a career backup. He's not going to electrify on the stat sheet. He's not going to, in terms of, say, even with Josh Allen having an off night again, which that is still a weird storyline that he's reverting back to like his 2 years old self from 2019. I don't get how that regression's been happening, but people either figuring out or something.
Yeah. No, you mentioned that, and it's actually really interesting looking at his stat line. You mentioned obviously the regression, the picks, the 2 interceptions, but he also he was very efficient in the rest of the game. 23 of 28, 260 yards, 4 total touchdowns, and then the 2 picks, or 4 passing touchdowns, and then the 2 picks.
Sure.
On top of that, the 8 rushes, 43 yards. So it's it was a weird combination of he regressed early, but then at the same time, it was efficient Josh Allen. So outside of two of the incompletions being picks, I mean that he only missed 3 passes. So that's not bad. So technically 26 of 28 or whatever, 23 of 25 or 27 if you take, or 26 if you take away the picks. So not a bad stat percentage at all for completion rate. I mean, that, I don't know, it's a weird thing with him, man. It's
yeah,
he just doesn't want to get comfortable some days.
Absolutely. And the other side of that, too, you mentioned the Saints maybe licking their wounds and looking forward to next year. Here's a question for you guys. Do you think Mike Thomas could be part of that future as well, too? Once again, injured. Once again, not seeing a whole lot of him. Big contract. Obviously, a little bit of disgruntlement with the organization is what we'll call it as well, too. A little bit of clashing of swords. Do you think maybe they are going to stick around with him, or do you think they try and move him and get draft picks maybe as well, too? Do you think he's part of that Saints future?
No chance.
Yeah, I'm getting the same vibe, and I think it really stems from delaying the surgery and maybe even earlier instances where, last year with Breeze retiring, him playing through that and kind of also having gripes with the coaching staff for them. It sounds like kind of saying, well, maybe you should play through and try and tough it out. That whole mess with his injury status and the surgery in the offseason starting in, I believe, July or August, which was kind of late to get that going. That's really, I think, is the first sign of, yeah, I'm out. And then also with him now going, yeah, I'm skipping the season. I need to be healthy and I'm not going to risk that. I think he's out the door like Kelcey's talking. I don't see a future. Just maybe he needs a fresh reset. And it's going to be probably not as dramatic as like some other receivers. I think it's going to be a quiet, look, let's mutually separate our ways. You can do your thing and figure it out. I will go ahead and move on in my career. Obviously,
I think they'll still be able to fetch a comfortable 2nd-round pick for him too, as well too. Just what he's capable of doing, a young receiver, still a pretty big contract, but not too ridiculous. I think they'll be able to snag maybe even a 2nd-round pick if they try to trade him. Probably won't get a 1 like you would a couple years ago or multiple ones, but maybe a late 2 from a contending team that just wants another weapon. There's a market out there for him, I'm sure, especially because he will, in theory, be 100% healthy going into next year. In theory, I mean, he's had a nice hiatus to get himself right.
I don't mean to cut into the second quarter time, but I do want to bring up this one point because it's more talked about with the Saints with Taysom Hill's hybrid contract extension being something of an anomaly. You know, I guess I'll say I'll avoid my time out of the second quarter for this just because I'm curious what you guys think. Taysom didn't play a single down against the Bills, but he's making guaranteed money out the wazoo somehow for possibly starting, if not really starting at all, and maybe getting a hybrid plays whenever they happen now. What in the world is going on? This sounds like loyalty to the extreme how I'm reading this.
This sounds like in basketball how the Heat have Udonis Haslem on the roster and they just kind of pay him as like that OG figure, but then you add a few zeros to the end of it as well too. Like it feels really weird because if you're going to pay him and your starting quarterback is struggling, you bring in the backup, but they refuse to bring him in as well too. So it's a very, I don't know, it's just really weird what they're not. And we know Sean Payton loves himself some Taysom Hill almost to a fault. Throw him out there. I mean, Trevor Siemian is struggling right now. I think he's won 1 game as a starter so far. Like, give him a chance to go out there and see what he can do. I mean, Trevor Siemian will be your backup. If Taysom Hill gets hurt again, then you're right back where you started. Unfortunately, you have to go sign somebody. Like, why not at this point? I mean, you don't have exactly the passing weapons to take advantage for Trevor Siemian to throw it up to. Let Taysom Hill do Taysom Hill things. What's the worst that could happen at this point?
Yeah, look, this contract is silly considering he's at this point in time in his career has only made a whopping $22 million. He has that guaranteed completely to him, and then it could go all the way up to $95 million, in guaranteed money. Like, does not make any sense to me. And then you're gonna like, okay, well, we need a quarterback, and obviously Simeon's not getting it done, and he's gonna sit there. Come on now.
If you want to keep him a quarterback to keep him healthy, that's fine, but go get a spark. You're only down 14. Go get him out there. Nope, we're going to take this butt whooping.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. What does he have on all the front office members and Sean Payton and everybody else in New Orleans, the governor of Louisiana, the city seating, whoever's in charge of New Orleans? Like, what does he have on all these people to get guaranteed money when he's a career 4-game starter?
A career up back.
Yeah, like, what's happening here? I don't know.
Bounty Gate 2, The Reckoning. He's got the dirt.
He's from BYU, man. They don't do things like that. What are you talking about?
Things change when money's involved, good sir.
Look, they barely play on Sunday. That's all I'm going to say about people from BYU.
Fair play.
I don't know. I don't get the loyalty. They better start using them because you're exactly right. Man's got to get in there when Simeon's been a little lackluster. All right, DJ, let's give you your time to shine. I am totally fine with removing my time on betting because DJ covers everything to a T with meticulous detail. It is DJ's best bets as quarter number 2 kicks off. DJ, your time to shine. Sir, what do you got for us this week?
Absolutely. Everyone break out your wine glasses and cheers because last week we made some good money on last week's bets as well too. Taking a quick look at it. Betting, we've called -7 Colts against Buffalo. Not only did the Colts cover, they won by more than 20. So they covered that 3 times over. Texans -10 against the Titans. Texans covered that with a W as well too. Over-unders, I did miss on the Bengals and Raiders by 4 points because of just tomfoolery. Tampa Bay against Giants, we said take the under 49.5. We got that one. Kansas City versus Cowboys, 56. Clearly take that under, and it clearly paid off as well too. So everyone who followed along, cheers to a good Sunday, because this one's probably not going to be the same because lightning does not strike twice. Taking a look at the spreads, Chargers -2.5 over the Broncos. Take that one easy. That's a surprisingly low spread to it. 2.5. That means the Broncos are only going to lose by 1. I don't think that even maybe the Broncos could slightly pull it off with one of those fluky wins they've been getting, but I wouldn't count on that one. Look at the Chargers to eat that one up comfortably. Patriots -6 favorites over Tennessee. That's if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to recheck, but I think that is the largest spread so far of the week as well too, which of the Sunday games, I should say. The biggest one includes the number 1 seed in the AFC as an underdog. Take Titans to at least cover that. I think we all picked the Patriots to win that, but look at it to be 24-27, something along those lines. I don't see Tennessee getting lambasted as well. They're at this point for a reason. even without Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown, they got to this point for a reason. Mike Vrabel's a good coach. Tannehill, they'll figure something out to keep it close. Looking at the spread, Rams a minus 110 underdog to Green Bay. Green Bay a plus 110 plus 110 favorite. That's a close one as well too. I would take the Rams on that one just because the odds this week for that are relatively close. But I would take the Rams because I think they have a good chance to upset Green Bay, especially if it's somewhat cleanish weather. Look for the Rams to really open up the offense. Now for the over-unders. This is where we have a little more fun this week. Colts and Bucks, the highest over-under at 51.5. Since we started doing this, nobody with the highest over-under has cracked the over. So take the under on this one. Look for it to be a relatively close game. Colts are going to play very max coverage, I'd imagine. Rush 3 to 4, try and get Tom Brady to make a mistake, and he's going to dink and dunk and check his way down. Jonathan Taylor, I can't imagine he has another 190 yards and 5 touchdown game. So look for the Colts to be methodical on offense and just don't look for it to be a super high scoring game to crack 51.5, maybe 25 to 20, something in that area. So look for it to be in the 45 to 50-ish range, but I think it'll be under 51.5. Steelers versus Bengals, 47.5. Take the under on that one. Take the over on that one. Cincinnati, when they win big. We saw what they did to the Ravens. They randomly explode. We saw what they did last week against the Raiders. They just randomly explode. They have a weird ability to just go absolutely ballistic. Steelers, Minka Fitzpatrick is back. The Steelers, we saw what they did in that fourth quarter against the Chargers. They can get rolling randomly as well, too. Look for the over for a 30 to 24 type game. Steelers, they're in the thick. Them and the Bengals are both in the thick of that AFC mess. Right now, the Bengals are in as the 5th wild card. The Steelers on the outside looking in because of that tie. Look for them both to bring their high-flying offense as well. I think T.J. Watt is still banged up, even if he's a good to go. Look for Joe Burrow him and Jamar Chase to bounce back and get going as well, too. And then the other one, Browns versus Ravens, the Sunday night capper, 46 points. I'm taking the under on that one. It's not a very high over-under, but you look at the Browns offense for the last month. My goodness, it has been absolutely rough. Even against the Lions, they only mustered up 13 points. Against the Steelers, they mustered up 15 points. They did have a nice explosion against the Bengals that was fueled primarily by defense. And then for the Ravens, you're going against a tough defense. During that time, too, the Browns defense is giving up 15 points, 13 points. They're stingy. They're being really stout. Lamar's coming off the sickness, missing some time. The running backs getting a little depleted. I think the Browns are going to be able to contain the Ravens and keep it close. And the Ravens defense, that Browns offense is missing something. It's missing a lot of things, actually. And I think the Ravens are going to wreak havoc on Baker. They're going to make his life miserable. So take the under in that one. Look for it to be 20 to 17, prototypical AFC North. Battle Royale, bloodbath, blood, sweat, tears, everything you can imagine. But a really close, low-scoring game to cap off Sunday night. I don't think it's going to be like last year's Monday night where Lamar takes a number 2, then comes out and leads an overtime drive, and where both teams score 40+. So that's what we're looking at for this week in betting. If you have a little bit of leftover money after your wins last week, go and maybe take a few other chances this week too. There's some interesting layouts, but nothing that really sticks out to me like you can't miss this.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know. There's one that I'm sitting here looking at, and it's that Seahawks and Washington one. And I mean, that -1 for Washington. I don't know, man. Like, this one could go either way. I think the Seahawks could pull this one off. I didn't pick the Seahawks, mind you, but I think the Seahawks potentially have the chance to upset this one as well. But then again, I'm not the one that won money last week. How long have you been waiting to pull out the wine glass, by the way? Has that been like something since the beginning of the season?
Honestly, it was just sitting right here, and I just happened to grab it. While we were doing the intro, I had to rip the stuff out of it because it was actually holding a bunch of crap. So I had to get it out so I could cheers without stuff falling everywhere. So that was a spur of the moment. So I wish I could think if it was planned to be like actual wine in the glass with the pinkies out and properly done.
You heard it, Yeti. So Yeti, get at us and let DJ get a fancy Yeti wine glass.
You know what? We'll see. Maybe if I win some more money this week, maybe I'll be able to afford one of those bad boys.
Fair enough. But no, look, man, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this Jets-Texans game, this 44.5 over-under for a Jets-Texans game where both teams have been they score stupid amounts of points at random times, and then they're both going against each other with their terrible defenses. I mean, what do you think? 24 apiece? You break the 44.5 easy.
It's possible. I am curious what Tyrod Taylor's going to do because he has been very, very hit and miss since coming back from the injury. He has not put up very many points, really. He's been really sputtery. And Zach Wilson is coming back, if I'm not mistaken, this week as well, too. And Zach Wilson coming off the injury, I'm not saying he's not capable, but like maybe it takes him a little bit to get his sea legs underneath him as well, too. And Corey Davis is coming back, where Elijah Morris stepped up huge for them during the time he was gone. Does that kind of throw off the chemistry as well? I'm curious to see how all these things mesh. It's not that they can't. It's very possible they could take the over. It's just it has a very weird feeling of a possible 10-7 type game at the same time. Like neither one I feel comfortable where it's like take the over or take the under. It has, like you said, You can see a random stupid explosion, and then I can see a dud just as easily, though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That one I'm interested if we have a couple extra dollars to throw at, just because that can go one way or the other. Same with the Eagles and Giants. That one's at 46. I feel like that one could go easily over.
Take the over in that one. Definitely take the over in that one. That was a safe over, I think.
The one that kind of surprised me, Panthers and Dolphins at 42 over under.
They're looking at what Miami's defense has done the last 3 weeks, and like they're going to wreak havoc on Cam. And I don't know if I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to hold up their end of the deal. Honestly, I could see it being 24-10 and not being able to reach that point as well. That's where I'm looking at, because the Dolphins' offense is sputtery at best too, because they refuse to commit to Tua, and he's been banged up. So, and when Jacoby's come in, Jacoby does not look great. He does not look like the same backup quarterback / 1 year starter he was in Indianapolis too. So I could see that one. It's not that I don't think the Panthers can't get close enough to it. I just don't know if the Dolphins will hold up their end of the deal to get to that 42.
I got an under on that one as well. That was going to be one that I'm like, I can see this being
really
someone. Yeah, I could see someone not like DJ saying holding up their end of the bargain on that. Losing their mind.
I see like a 28-15 ball game in this one, and like it's 43 points. It's not like it breaks it by a lot, but I think that's a very simple, like, I don't know, man. I feel like this one's I feel like any NFL team should be able to score 2 touchdowns. They're not that bad.
I'm looking at I'm feeling 24-14. That's my weird feel about it. That's the only reason I'm like, it's close. Like, it's a really close, and there's a reason they gave it a low on neither one of these teams. And it's very possible I could be wrong. And we see the Dolphins team that everybody in the preseason put in the playoffs. Maybe they're starting to come to life with this defense after that game against the Ravens. Maybe this is that was the turning point, but I'm going to have to wait to see it, because in pretty much all of their games, their wins and losses, the Dolphins have not had any offense, really. Like, their offenses has been sputtery. I think that's how we're going to describe the Dolphins this entire season, is sputtery. They haven't really had a game, whether they win or lose, where they put up a bunch of points. Even when they win, it's like, ooh, really gross.
Well, I guess on the other end, like, they have said that Cam Newton's catching on to the offensive scheme relatively quick so far. So that might also play. And they scored 21 against Washington, who I would say, better defensively anyway. So there is possibility that you can get up there. I don't know. I'm just, for some reason, I feel like that's going to be one where it's a little more lopsided in the score sheet, but maybe not a runaway game where you're hitting like 31, 35 or something along that,
Who knows? Maybe it's one of the games where the Panthers by themselves go absolutely ballistic and they cover it. Who knows? That we've seen the Bills cover spreads all by themselves multiple times this year. So anything we'll see. I just want to, if the Dolphins play like we expected them to preseason, take the over 1,000 times over. I just haven't seen it yet, because that offense has not been existent.
Speaking of that, I actually think the Patriots by themselves will cover the over against the Titans.
Wow, the Patriots alone are going to drop a bit. You think they're going to crack 40?
You think Mac Jones is going to get 40 plus himself, 45, 44 himself?
Well, no. I mean, I guess I'm getting a little not overconfident, but I am misstating myself. I think they will be the ones that make most of the over to cover.
So you think of like that 40 plus, they'll get like 35, and the Titans just have to get some garbage time to close.
It'll be
like
a blowout,
35-17, something like that.
Yeah, this whole game has the signs of a blowout to me. A red hot Patriots team. Titans are stripped down to the bare bones on offense, and really, that's not even an understatement. They really are stripped down to pretty much whatever the frame is, if we're talking in car terms. And it just seems like Mac Jones, Bill Belichick, you want to talk about Stevenson and company in the backfield. Everything's gelling at the right moment. I feel like this is just like that game where it's like we're breaking out and we're gonna make a damn good case even further for the AFC East.
It's possible. I felt like they did that against the Browns, and then the Falcons on Thursday night was kind of their, okay, we're still on the riding high. I think this is where they're going to come down just a little bit, and the Titans will do what they've kind of done all season, at least keep it close. I do have the Patriots winning at the back end of it, but I think the Patriots get weirdly close and almost a quote-unquote humbling moment. It's like, all right, Belichick and Patriots, back down out of earth a little bit. You're not going to crush everybody and finish on a 15-game winning streak. Now let's reel it back in. I think it'll be the best thing for the Patriots, as much as the rest of the AFC does not want to hear that, but I think the Titans and Mike Vrabel will find a weird, stupid way to make it close. I mean, Vrabel, as much of a Belichick guy as it gets out there as well. To me, he scored touchdowns as a linebacker for Belichick. So I think he finds this a stupid way to make it close, like in that playoff game where he's winding down the clock on the punt like 4 times over. Like, he does some weird Mike Vrabel weird goofiness, like how he weaponized COVID last year, and finds a way to get a W at the back end of it. It's going to be I think there's going to be a close one.
Fair enough. But no, the only other one I'm looking at is on the spread, and I think I kind of like Zach that they'll probably cover most of this one by themselves. That LA Chargers versus Broncos, 47.5. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers put up 35 of that 47.5. and the Broncos not afraid to score themselves might be able to put up 17.
I'm really curious how that one's going to go as well too. I could see it being a 24-10 where the Chargers just control it, but they don't unleash hell, because it feels like they only unleash hell offensively when they have to. Like we saw against the Browns when they were struggling, they unleashed hell. Against the Steelers at the end of it. But then when they don't have to unleash hell, they just kind of coast, it feels like.
Well, Austin Eckler just had a big week, so that means Mike Williams is about to have a big week this week. That's my thought.
Mike Williams had a big week last week as well.
Yes, it's not like he caught like a 53-yard game-winning touchdown or anything.
No. I mean, look, when it comes to touchdowns, that doesn't mean nothing. Touchdowns are touchdowns, which are touchdowns. That's how you score. That's how you get the points. And that's at the end of the day. I think this is going to be Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's about to have a field day throwing the ball, not just giving the ball to Austin Eckler.
So, before we get out of this segment, do you think Justin Herbert's going to be the Kelcey Air Player of the Week? You think he's going to light it up through the air to have the best air performance?
Well, now you got me scratching from nervousness. I'll answer that one in the fourth quarter. How about that?
We got time. We're going to be talking about that game later, so we'll head to it. But there's something to think about if Kelcey's going to put his money where his mouth is. A good way to end this betting segment.
Great tease. Looks like we're going to be heading into the halftime really quick. Just about 30-ish seconds. We'll be right back, jumping into your fantasy discussion very shortly. Stay tuned, folks. Right back into it. We are out of halftime. Jumping into the third quarter, folks. It is the second half of 4th and 4. Part of the Belly Up Sports pregame lineup here for Belly Up Sports' own podcasting group that we are a part of. Zach Kyleman, of course, Gridiron Gallery, DJ and Kelcey here of High Low Sports Podcast. As we kick off the third quarter, it's time for fantasy start sits and maybe some sleepers, just any tidbits that we have or some thoughts we're thinking of for our fantasy lineups. Obviously, we compete in our own sleeper league right now. I'm admit I'm struggle busting my own. I have not
compete
been able to...
is a very nice term for my team right now.
By the way, it's almost like I'm going to be teasing the fourth quarter with how our stats have gone with pick'ems, because not only is Hector dominating the pick'ems, he is killing everyone in that fantasy league. So shout out to Hector Flores for just making it hell for both of those.
Hector
playing catch-up.
The football guy, Flores. I still need to get a thing made up for every time this gets brought up. It just pops up on the screen. It says Hector, the football guy, Flores.
Put it on a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt one right there.
I mean, yeah. Hey, Hector, you heard us. Go put it on your bonfire by this.
Go to bonfire, man. Get that t-shirt made. Talk to your design consultant. You know what?
I'll design it for you. You don't even need to talk to the design consultant. I just require 1% fee.
You may be beating me, but I'm going to get that money out of you somehow.
Gonna get my pay back.
I'll take my penny per shirt. It might be a pity penny, but I'll take it. I have no.
All right. Let's see in fantasy how we can maybe give you a win this week that can help you possibly, I don't know, if you're doing a bet in your own home league, or maybe you're doing one of those weekly fantasy lineups, get some money, I guess. Money part 2. I have to follow up after the betting segment. So here's the deal, guys. We generally try and pick kind of like some starts, people to avoid, sleepers, just people we look out for. I'll kick things off. I'll tell you what, we were talking about the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. Now, I know that Tyrod Taylor has been he's getting back into the swing of things, but I think this is a breakout game for him. I actually love Tyrod Taylor in fantasy. He's mobile, but people they don't always take that, I think, is for granted. And I think this is the perfect matchup for him to get back on his feet in terms of his passing capabilities. He was lighting things up his first 2 weeks before he had his hamstring injury. I think this is a great kickoff point after they just upset the Titans to get that arm back into motion 100% like his legs are seeming to be now. I'm looking at him as a good start piece. Same goes for Antonio Gibson against the Seattle Seahawks. I would definitely be putting him in my starting lineup if I am debating among my starters. I mean, I could really find him on fantasy waivers, but if you got him in your lineup, I'm throwing him in this week. Maybe a flex if you have that chance. Otherwise, talking, say, Receivers, we're actually sleeper type of picks here. Stick with the Texans and Jets. I don't know why I'm doing this mediocrity matchup as options.
Because you're taking you're about to take all my picks is what you're about to do.
Ty Johnson. Did I just take your pick?
No. You can have Ty Johnson.
Well, that's my last one I'll do right now, and I'll hold off any further because I don't want to be hogging. But, Ty Johnson, you got to have somebody fill in for Michael Carter being put on IR. Texans will give you some points for whoever's going to be behind that backfield. And Johnson's been capable as a flex option from the passing game as well. I think he supplements that too with a bit, some carries, if you will, in this matchup. That's where I'll stop at right now. I don't want to take any more. You two can give me some more pieces or steal maybe some busts. I don't know.
No, I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of your sneaky sleeper here. You obviously went Ty Johnson. I'm going to go the other Jets running back here with Tevin Coleman, the better of the Jets.
What is with you and me doing this? This is the second time we've done this year.
At least this time we didn't split the backs on in our sleeper league at the same time. You know what? That's okay. But
I will acknowledge defeat on the Adrian Peterson thing since he was waived. So I'll give you that one. But
I successfully won by felling at the same time.
I'm not backing down on this one. Ty Johnson, man. All right, I'll listen to
Tevin Coleman is the best running back they have. And literally, statistically speaking, he is the best yards after catch per rush running back that the Jets currently have on the roster, even with Michael Carter. He's just been injured all season. I mean, literally, if it's not for the fact he got injured early on in the season, he is their number one running back. Everybody forgets what Tevin Coleman did in San Francisco before he got let go by them. And he was an absolutely fantastic starter there. And this was one against Houston's defense. It would not surprise me in the least to see him go off. And then another one, you talked about Adrian Peterson, Zach. I'm going to go Dontrell Hilliard. Start him, especially in a PPR league. He is about to have an absolute ball. Deontay Foreman is not going to be the guy. He is a two-down power back. That is his thing. He is a pretty much a bust anywhere else you can have him. So, yeah, I say those two for running backs. And like I said with receivers, start Mike Williams. I know you got bailed out last week with that big touchdown catch. But, look, he's been slowly trending upwards. And I do mean slowly, as DJ can attest to. He's been kind of a crap, should I play him every week type of pick, and just in case there's somebody that goes off more. But this time, Mike Williams absolutely going to have a ball. And that's, other than the guys that I messed up on Thursday with, which was Tony Pollard. I had Tony Pollard. I brought him into my team, and I was like, I'm going to start him. Completely forgot to start him. So I have 16 points sitting on my bench right now. But I had a great plan with Tony Pollard, so unfortunately I missed out on that one. But he was my other candidate for looking good this week. But no, just as of right now, those are my big three. So Hilliard with the Titans. You have Tevin Coleman with the Jets, and Mike Williams, obviously, with the Chargers.
Okay. I really hope you're right with Tevin Coleman because I picked him up off a waiver, and I hope he does because I need some running back help right now. Please let Kelcey be right on this one. I'm asking for it. So looking at something that I have, I'm looking at if you still have him on your lineup or if someone released him, maybe this week, give Odell a shot. Why not? I know he's kind of, I don't want to say hurt everybody who's drafted him, but he has completely damaged our souls the entire season that we've played him. He's never been able to go plus 11 or 12 points, it feels like, as well, too. So definitely curious to see if he's going to go off this week as well, too. It looks like Kelcey will be playing Odell this week as well, too, if I'm reading that correctly. So, or is he going to be on your bench this week?
No, he's playing this week.
All right, then. So I think against Green Bay, he's had plenty of time, the 10 days or so since the Monday night and the bye week. Time to get acclimated in the system. Looking at the weather in Green Bay, it's a chance it could be a little bit windy, but doesn't look like there's going to be too much snow. Green Bay's secondary, I think they overperformed for about a week, but they did get exposed last week by Kirk Cousins and that Vikings high-flying offense that can sometimes get loose. You have to imagine the Rams and Sean McVay saw some of that and were like, okay, we got a plan. Cooper Kupp's going to be out there. You're going to have Van Jefferson getting back into the mix. I think Odell's he'll give you 12 points, I think. I think he can give you like 6 catches for 60 yards in this game. I think he could easily get you that, maybe even get himself in the end zone. Just they'll find ways to get him the ball. I feel like this is the week. We joked about it last week in his debut using the shiny new toy. Well, a little bit too short notice for that toy as well, too. So now that you give him Sean McVay some extra time, they'll find a way to get it done in what I expect to be a high-flying shootout of a game. Also, if he's still out there or if you have him, Jeff Wilson, the running back for the 49ers, going up against Minnesota. That defense is hurting right now. They are missing players. The run defense hasn't been the most stout. And for the 49ers, they're starting to get a little bit of a rhythm going. They're starting to kind of put themselves into that NFC cluster as well, too. So look for the 49ers to come out and try and run the ball and establish the run. We talked about against the Jaguars, they probably were going to let Jimmy Garoppolo pick them apart, which they did a lot of. And Deebo Samuel led the way in rushing because what can't Deebo Samuel do? So I look for Jeff Wilson to be that guy this week to get a little bit of action running the ball as well. See them utilize him like a RB1 type guy since they refuse to play Trey Sermon for any circumstance whatsoever. And if you're like a lot of us, including me sometimes, who is really, really hurting, you forgot to set your lineup on Thanksgiving, and now you have like another injury and you need a flex, this is a random one you probably don't want, and it's a risky one. But if you're desperate, maybe Patrick Ricard, the fullback for the Baltimore Ravens as well too. Maybe you pick him up and see what he can give you because he might get a random touchdown in this game with Lamar Jackson against that Browns defense because they're going to be keying in on Lamar. They're going to be trying to shut that. They're going to be watching Mark Andrews, and the running back depth is kind of a carousel for them. So maybe you see Patrick Ricard just catch a random touchdown in the flat on the goal line or something like that. It's not a lot of points, but 8 to 10 points from Patrick Ricard is better than 0 to 3 points from anybody else. So that's what I'm looking at for sleepers and potential starts. For sits, will be really quick on the same vein. Sit Hollywood Brown. Denzel Ward's going to be out there. The secondary for the Browns is starting to get a little bit healthy. I would avoid him because I think he's a little too dependent on getting a big play in this game. And then I'm looking at Robbie Anderson going against that Miami secondary. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. I think Carolina's going to win. I think they're going to win comfortably, but I don't think it's going to be Cam letting it go to Robbie Anderson. So that's what I'm looking at in the fantasy world this weekend. Should be an interesting one. I already know that my blood pressure is starting to spike, and I had a pretty good start to the week with Hunter Renfrow and Dawson Knox. So I got a good start, and I'm still already feeling my blood pressure spike.
I have to commend you for giving a fullback some fantasy football love. I mean, hold on.
Well, let's look at it. Like I predict this game's going to be ugly, like 17-7, and those type of games, it's a random son of a gun that scores. Like you can't pick an offensive lineman, I guess. So I couldn't do that. So I'm thinking maybe a play action on the goal line and Patrick Ricard's chilling in the flats as everybody on the Browns crashed in on Lamar, and then Lamar flicks it to him. Like it's not a great pick. This is if you are desperate and oh my goodness, you are panicking. You need to find something.
I thought I was desperate for bringing Sammy Watkins into my bench, and that was a desperation move. And you went full Patrick Ricard on me.
Two things can't be true at once. I mean, either way, we are reaching right here. We are looking for Ravens skill position players, not letting Lamar Jackson to save you or Mark Andrews to save you. So, I mean, like,
yeah, that's true.
I
like the pick though.
And we're at the point in the season too where everybody's kind of already plucked the waiver wires clean. Like, there's not to get a random guy that's going to explode. You almost have to just be a jerk. You know, you just pick a guy like, I'm so far lead, I'm going to pick this guy, and then he ends up going off. Like, you're very rarely, or if you're in behind, or if you need to make a comeback, are you going to just pick a guy at random that he's going to go off like that?
I don't have that luxury. I have to go with whatever's going to hopefully get me money, except for Odell. I'm just going to keep riding that Odell train until the wheels fall off. I literally dropped him and picked him back up before anybody else could.
And that's exactly where I am as well too. It's like you kind of have to just take what you have, and maybe if you're absolutely desperate, you have to try and go for desperate times, call for desperate measures. So that's what I'm looking at as well too. If you can sit Robbie Anderson, I would sit him with that Miami secondary, and same with Hollywood Brown going against the Browns. And I think it's gonna be such an ugly game. I could be wrong. I say this is gonna be a 35-35 type game now or something ridiculous, but I could see this one just being an ugly classic AFC North 10-11, like that Steelers Ravens playoff game that ended 10-11 quite a few years back. I can see this being something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you one other player. We mentioned Elijah Moore earlier, who I met, many have probably dropped him off at this point, and is one of those rapid, I'm picking him back up right now type of guys. He's catching up in speed. I know you hinted at it earlier, DJ. You think Zach Wilson can keep that up, or is that going to be a turn down in production this week, just with, like, you're talking chemistry you hinted at?
I think it's a turn down because he's been sporadically giving 25 points in some leagues randomly. I don't think he's going to give you that with like the 12 catches and 150 yards, but I can see him still getting like 13, like maybe 7 for 60 or something like that. I think the way this game I feel like is going to go, they're going to have plenty of opportunities. They're going to move the ball. They're just not going to get in the end zone. They're going to stagnate once they cross the 50, and Elijah Moore will get some burn in that action as well too. Zach Wilson did love himself some Corey Davis, as we saw when they're both healthy, and Corey Davis, the old veteran, big possession receiver, can go get the ball. So I wonder if he's going to reacclimate more towards Corey Davis, and that might hurt Elijah Moore. But it's one of those that'll go either way. I just don't know if he'll be able to give you the 30 this week that Elijah Moore has been giving the last couple weeks, including myself on a few leagues as well too. So believe me, I'm really hoping I'm wrong on this one. I don't think he's going to have quite the same explosion that we've seen.
Right. That was one of the rush pickups for this week anyway, if you were going to look at the waiver wire. So, those don't always pan out back-to-back weeks. There's always one of those that sometimes he'll drop the ball, it'll be a bust, and you rage quit at the end of the night because you went, what could good? God damn it! I
the story of my entire fantasy football season, basically.
Me when I end up losing by a point because Tony Pollard on the bench.
Ah, yes, the future pain to come.
I imagine it felt so much better watching him run 100 yards for that kickoff return too.
Bro, literally the whole thought was, as I'm listening to you on Colorcast, was he's on my bench. He's on my bench.
Oh, that reaction was so great with the chat too, because I was on a super high calling out, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Oh, shoot.
Oh, sucks for you.
Now I'm bummed.
For the rest of us, yay. For you, I'm sorry.
Happy medium. Touchdown, but at what cost?
Everything.
Cost me everything.
Insert Thanos meme here.
Insert Thanos meme. Well, folks, I would say that's a pretty good roundup of some of your fantasy options, and, this is what we think. Not everything's going to be for certain, but there's definitely trends that you can look at and say, stuff can happen. So listen wisely. And we wish you the best. Unless you're one of us in here facing each other, I don't wish that person the best. I hope I win.
Yeah, like I'm facing Tony. I don't wish Tony the best this week. I'm sorry, Tony.
He's probably okay with that.
Yeah.
Although he probably wants to take his rage out for Ohio State getting beaten up on something.
He can wait until next week. He doesn't face me next week.
Well, yeah, but you two are angry. I was waiting till the show, but Auburn, you're also getting the loss, so you got to.
Hey, so it looks like it's time for quarter 4, presented by Colorcast.
Oh, thanks a lot.
The primetime pick'ems.
Woo!
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. It's time for primetime pick'em. I'm going to obviously not keep jabbing a needle at the one thing I was talking about.
No, we don't talk about that here.
What's the Iron Bowl?
NFL show.
In the NFL. I don't know.
No, honestly, no, I'll go ahead and answer that one though. Look, Auburn didn't even deserve it. Wasn't even expected to be there. Took the number 3 team in the nation with a 20-point spread, the largest in Iron Bowl history, to 4 overtimes, lost by a 2-point conversion with their backup quarterback on one leg.
You'll take it.
Their only five-star linebacker they've ever recruited is injured and out in Owen Popo. Shut down a Heisman candidate's, number 1 streak. I feel pretty good about it.
It was a primetime performance by that defense, and it will lead to some primetime NFL picks as well, too. And we got an interesting doc that I'll see some people, maybe 1 or 2 of us on some of the calls as well, too, you could say.
Oh, we're all going to be on all of them.
Yeah, we'll be on all these. So. In some way, we'll be on all these.
Unless I die in between now and then.
That's what I'm anticipating.
Oh, thanks, DJ.
I got the gauntlet.
I'm always prepared.
Oh, yeah. Lord.
Well, let's take a look here at last week's results. So a little more positive. We've been kind of in a track of losing records. We finally got that trend to flip around. A lot of 9 and 5s. Hector actually finished 8 and 6 behind us 3 in here.
Take it, Hector. Take it.
A little progress. And you look in the overall, I actually caught up by 1 game. We all caught up at least by 1. So Hector crosses the century mark. First one to do so on the season. I'm at 97, and then DJ and Kelcey at 90 and 89. Jim, unfortunately, has slipped to the bottom with his 82, which brings us to this week for some of our mainline picks. Let's take a look here. Why don't we start out with the AFC West matchup? Just kind of getting that one through, mainly because all of us picked it, the same thing. That's going to be a 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Colorcast, one that I'll be on. But Chargers at the Broncos. What can you say? I think you got at least LA on a roll right now, and Denver has been kind of disguising its record a little too well at times this year.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that Justin Herbert's not going to let this one go to an L. I feel like him and Austin Eckler in the squad, whether they blow them out or it's relatively weirdly close, I think it feels pretty safe to say Chargers should walk away with this one comfortably. I don't know where the Broncos are going to get consistent offense, and their defense, while effective in spurts, good luck dealing with that monster. We saw what they were capable of doing last week and previous weeks when they don't randomly poop the bed. So we'll see if they can avoid stepping in at number 2. I think the Chargers will win this one in a comfortable 24-14, 27-14, something along those lines.
I like it. I'm going to take this moment to say, yes, DJ, to answer your earlier question, I will assure myself of saying Justin Herbert will be the air raid player of the week for sure this week. I was looking for anything I could have to hold up at the same time as this. Like, But I don't want to give anybody free sponsorship money. So, sponsors get at me and we can make this a segment or something. I don't know.
All right, so we'll throw it to you. What do you think his final stat line is going to be this week? Then what are you looking at?
So last time I projected a Justin Herbert final stat line, and I was, by the way, against the Browns. I was almost spot on with both of those.
You had
two.
Baker. I had Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's right. You took Justin. You were almost spot on. I was almost spot on with Baker. I missed one touchdown pass because.
Hold on now, don't you take that from me? That was mine.
Look, Donovan Peoples-Jones didn't look up, and that's the why I didn't get it right. So whoops, my bad. So look, this one I'm going to say Justin Herbert throws for 350, 3 touchdowns, and then I don't think he's going to have the crazy 100-yard rushing again, but I do think he puts up 60 yards rushing as well, and probably scores one with his feet.
So you think he basically has another MVP performance and basically says like, "Hey guys, I'm here. Move over, JT. I'm coming to the top."
Well, dang.
Okay. Look, I don't trust the Denver Broncos as far as I can throw them, and now without Von Miller, I can throw them pretty far.
I don't trust them either. That's why I don't trust them to not make this weirdly close. If I try and say the Chargers will whoop them.
Yeah, look,
Kelcey, they beat the Cowboys.
Oh, that's not saying much recently.
I don't trust the Cowboys either. I pick against the Cowboys 50% of the time as a Cowboys fan.
I know you do.
What about you, Zach? Well, you're going to be on the call for this game. What are you looking at when these two teams match up? What are your thoughts going into the game?
Well, I'm definitely wanting to see a more consistent Chargers offense. And now I think we finally saw what capabilities are when you finally give them a kick in the pants against the Steelers. But it seems like at times, we talk about when I was actually doing one for the Chargers and Minnesota Vikings, funny enough. So this will be the second call I have with the Chargers, at least. It's very much like you're almost trying to fight like a clutch in a car, trying to shift gear. And then once you get that gear, it works really well. But trying to like down gear or like up gear, it seems like it takes forever to switch over. So I want to see like a thorough game plan. I want to see an offense that is humming on all cylinders at least. And an opponent in Denver, it's going to be a divisional matchup, so it's probably going to be tighter. AFC West matchups, it seems like, sans maybe, the occasional Chiefs Raiders matchup. These guys tend to play pretty close. I think it'll be closer than most think, but I think Justin Herbert's going to shine quite well. And I'm also leaning towards Mike Williams going to be in the spotlight a lot of this one.
As a Mike Williams fantasy player, I hope you guys are both right, as he will still be remaining in my starting lineup. So let's hope so.
And if I'm not, it's not like you can't blame me for it or not anything. Like, you can blame me all the time.
I'm also kind of, for some reason, I have a sneaking suspicion that Melvin Gordon, another opportunity against his old team, will have some sort of decent night. Where you'll hear like.
He's had so many opportunities to have revenge games against the Chargers that the fact is he had his best revenge games his first season with the Chargers by not scoring any touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
that was his best performance against the Chargers, you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. All those yards, no touchdowns to serve for him. Like, it's still incredible to me.
Right. I don't know. Look out for just leaning for Denver on the run game, because that's pretty much the main weakness you can exploit with LA. Is just running up the gut is kind of their like Achilles heel for the most part. So if they can exploit that in some way, shape, or form, get some consistency out of Melvin Gordon or whoever's in the backfield, that kind of keeps it in pace and just mitigate any, over usage of Teddy Bridgewater. Just make him a game manager. Don't make him have to play hero ball, and we can be fine.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. All right, well, that'll take us to game 2. LA Rams, the other LA team, versus Green Bay. And it looks like the only one going against the grain here is Hector, which, surprise, surprise, Hector the football guy going against the grain here. But yeah. DJ and I will be on the call for this one, live 4:25 Eastern time. So just after Zach starts, we'll be going on live as well. So we'll be listening to Zach for about 20 minutes and then jumping on to Casta as well. And this one, what's there to expect, really?
Fireworks. That's what I'm expecting as well, too. Yes. I expect Aaron Rodgers to be able to pick that defense apart in certain ways. I think they still have the playmakers. Well, they might rough him up a little bit with his not COVID fractured toe. He might not be able to run away from Von Miller and Aaron Donald as much, but I expect him to still put up 25 to 28 points. I just expect the Rams to be able to pick on this battered Packers secondary that has fallen to the wayside a little bit. They overperformed for about a month. I look for him to continue to come back down to earth, as you saw what the Vikings did last week. And look for the Rams to exploit that a lot. Maybe even we see a little bit of Matthew Stafford takes a snap and hands the ball off on occasion. Maybe it's not 8 runs compared to 50 passes. Maybe we see a little bit more balance. And I expect the Rams would be able to win this one in a relatively high-scoring affair. I think it'll be very similar to that Vikings and that Packers game from last week. I think you can almost copy and paste that one over, and the Rams just get the nod over the top of them.
Word on the street is Darrell Henderson can tote the rock pretty well, and at least looks pretty good when you give him the chances to do so.
Back in my day, we used to see Sony Michel get handed the ball, and he used to go run real far. So we'll see if they just start breaking that out again.
You guys took the words out of my mouth. I can't even make a funny joke. This is like South Park not making fun of a certain individual because it's just the real life was just so much funnier than anything you could make up. It's like this is exactly that situation where I just can't do it because the real life is just so silly. Like just hand the ball.
Lead you now, Kelcey.
Just hand the ball, man.
Just hand it off like
RTDB.
Just copy and paste the Colts holiday song and just kind of post that in there for a little bit as well too. You don't have to run it a lot, just more than 8 times. Like run it 16 times. That's all we're saying. Just double that output, and suddenly you'll get more passing attempts too.
15 or more rushes, scheduled rushes, and this Rams team will walk away with almost every game in the league.
Easy. Yeah.
Assuming they're all relatively quality rushes as well, too. They can't all be for like 1 or 2 yards. But you imagine like some of those with their offensive line, their skill positions, eventually some of them will work. I mean,
when you go 8 for 64 and you're averaging higher than 5 yards a carry, almost 6 yards a carry, you feel pretty good about that.
If you can get that and run it 16 times, you'll be golden with just about anybody. With those weapons, that quarterback, that Cooper Kupp, that Odell, you'll be golden with everybody.
Get OBJ going, quota. I need the quota. We're supposed to be getting better numbers out here, right?
It's not a whole lot to get better numbers out there. I mean, heck, in his 12 plays in his debut, he outdid his last game with the Browns. So it's not like it's a very high quota that was passed at this point.
That's fair.
But that'll take us to the third game of the night, our Monday night game. And Zach, you'll be back on the call for this one. That Washington football team versus the Seahawks. And again, Hector going the other way, making me nervous about my pick right here. And I don't know. Is he seeing something about Russell Wilson that I'm not seeing, or that what's happening?
He is, it's only because I've been saying it for the last 3 weeks, and Russell Wilson's been and the team's been letting me down. So if it is, I take 50% credit for Hector's pick because I've been trying to do this for the last month, and Seattle's just never. We talked about getting it with the clutch and high gear. They haven't even been able to get out of the parking spot in the last, basically since Russell Wilson went down the first time, and then since he's come back. So we'll see. I don't see Seattle getting it done. I just can't seem to see it getting done.
Just grinding the gears the whole time.
Just spinning in a circle.
This thing's gonna break. I any more tension.
Oh Jesus!
Gravel spraying into windshields nearby too. Just like, oh well, there that goes.
No, I don't have PTSD for learning how to drive a stick shift. I don't. No.
Oh no, absolutely not. I still remember driving a Suzuki Samurai. That was my first experience, and then it was an ice truck for Home City Ice. True story. Tell you what, for this one, really, I think for the Seattle Seahawks, you got to take advantage of Chase Young being out now for the year. That pass rush is going to be it's going to be limited a little more. So they're going to have to, Ron Rivera and company are going to get a little more creative. However, I think, the football team, I still hate that I have to say that. Offensively, they've been kicking late. They've been kicking on at least a good quantity of time. On high cylinders, at least. Antonio Gibson's been leaning into much more of a consistent run game. Taylor Heineke is playing some hero ball surprisingly and doing it well. I think this is a game that you can keep seeing them move in that direction where they can at least fight for a wild card. Russell Wilson getting hot's what's going to be the X factor, though, because if he finally stops having, I would say, kind of that recovery period and just comes back at full strength, we can be talking about a fully different ball game, but I think that the football team are more well-rounded. That's how I'm going to end it right there, as we're running out of time. We're running short. Quickly, jump back in, everybody. We got to say goodbye to the lovely folks out there watching this live stream. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, as always. We'll be back for Week 13 with much more of a larger slate of games. Less prodding at Kelcey for losses on his end, maybe. Yeah, or more towards me, because Jay Cutler could do anything. Look, oh my God, you really did. You went out.
And that's how we're gonna end the episode, guys. Let's go. And we'll see you guys next week as always.